Ontario Sheep Farmers has a new exciting website to tell you about. The Sheep Institute, which can be found at sheepinstitute.ca. It is the place where we have put every resource that we have related to sheep farming. At last count, there were 347 published articles and courses and posts and videos. So go and check it out. If there's anything that you would like to see featured there, and you need to know something that isn't available, please reach out to us. There are resources that we are going to start adding from other places in the world on different topics. And so if you have ideas for us, it will help us fill out the information on the site. But please check it out and give us feedback on how you make out. Now let's get into today's episode. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Flock Talk. I'm Erin Morgan.
And I'm Walker Ball, and we work for the members of the Ontario Sheep Farmers.
Today, we're joined by Yaser Qayem from Blue Lakes Premium Meats, also known as Park Hill Meats, to discuss their recent transition to federal inspection and how it has given them greater access to the Ontario lamb market. So welcome, Yaser.
Thank you. I'm glad to be in this podcast.
Amazing. Well, to start us off, can you just tell us a little bit about your business and what led you to pursue federal inspection?
Very good question. As you may know, we started in 2016 as a provincial plant, and over the 10 years, we have working with an old facility. A small butcher shop, if you will, serving the local community here. And when we took over, we started, doing wholesale to the market. And over the years, we have, increased our numbers and market share to a point that it was a strategic decision about how can we grow the business efficiently and profitably. So we spent some time during COVID looking into options. And at that time, we knew that continuing growing the business with the old facility, with the wrong, flow, if you will, there were lots of inefficiencies and it doesn't allow us to increase capacity. So we revised our strategic plan and we decided, we need to expand. And at that time, we decided to build a new building. And during the discussions and the strategic deliberation, we took a decision that going into federal will allow us not only to take it to the next level with quality and food safety, but also opening the doors across Canada, not only Ontario. And then also internationally.
Fascinating.
Amazing.
Yeah. So Yaser, for producers who might not be familiar with the differences, what exactly does federal inspection allow you to do that wasn't possible as a provincially inspected plant?
Yeah, very good question. So being a federal now, and in addition, it is a higher food safety programs that we have to abide with. It enables us now to start doing business with big accounts, that require higher food safety programs. Big retailers like Costco, Loblaws Group, etc. And then the other thing is it opens the door to go beyond Ontario as well. So that's where the benefit is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So becoming federally inspected also is a significant investment. So what were the biggest changes that your business had to make? And looking back, was it worthwhile?
Yeah, it's a huge transition. It's a different league. In many ways. One of them, just talking about it from a food safety, so it's a higher level of food safety regulations. So basically, it's more about proper documentation, proper recording of the information. That's one thing. The other thing is about. It's about training, training the staff. So working in a provincial environment, there are lots of similarities. Like when we talk, food safety and all that, but going to the next level with CFIA, there are more expectations about flows, about handling, about animal welfare, about finished products regulations, about shelf life, more testing of the product to ensure food safe for Canadians. So yes, it's another level. It's a huge transition from a regulation perspective, but also now it is from a process perspective. So the process flow of how we conduct production has to be aligned with the expectation of the food safety. Like for example, I'll give you an example. The segregation of staff working on one area and their welfare areas are different, are segregated, are separate from other group of staff working on another production area.
Wow.
So these kind of things added to the level of transition, and the investment.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you can't have the same staff working in different parts of the plant.
You can. However, they need to have different
Like PPE.
PPEs.
Yep.
They have to go through different entrances, right? They have to be segregated in terms of what they wear, the color code,
Wow.
the sanitation process, entry into different production areas.
Wow. That's really interesting. So, and did you also have to change suppliers of things like packaging, Yaser, in order to have like a federally compatible supplier?
Not necessarily. No, not necessarily. Obviously, there are some expectation, about the product, and I believe all the suppliers have that, and they need to be approved, right, from a food safety perspective. Like when they touch the meat.
Yep. Interesting.
There's like a whole bottom iceberg to this, isn't there?
Yep.
Yes.
Did you have a sense going into that? I know I'm veering off here, but did you have a sense of that, Yaser, or were you a bit shell shocked after finding out what the whole process?
No. We knew that there's going to be something different, a different level. So we hired, consultants in this area to walk us through, that whole transitioning.
Okay.
And the training and the documentation and the record keeping. And so once at the time we decided to go ahead with the federal and the design of the building and hiring the engineers, also we engage people that are familiar with CFIA expectations. So they walked us through the whole process. So we knew that this is coming.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. Okay. And I think that's one of those unseen aspects worth noting, that it's best to have people around to help guide you instead of taking it on and trying to learn it. No YouTube tutorials on that one, I could imagine.
Absolutely.
You had touched on a little bit about some of the market opportunities, which would be accessing international markets. I'm wondering if you could explain a little bit more, share a bit more about what you've seen for these new market opportunities outside of Ontario and internationally.
Yeah, so by default, being a federal plant, we are eligible to export. but we have to follow other specific export regulations, right? And there are some agreements between countries and Canada about their expectation of what food safety requirements are. So we have to go through this one. We are not yet ready to export, right? So being a federal, it's not by default allow you to go and export. You have to go through, first of all, you have to prove yourself that you are following the Canadian food safety regulations, right? And go through that for some time. And then based on which international country you are trying to target, right? That country will have the specific requirements that you need to understand and being able to show that you are able to meet their requirements, and then you go to the process to apply an application to enable you to export to that country. And then internally in Canada, they take you through that process. And then once that process is done, then the paperwork go to that country to get you approved on their side. So it's another process on the other country side.
Wow.
Right, because those are international agreements, right? Similarly, with other international agreements with regarding to any trade, and specifically the food and the meat, because it's a very sensitive product, right? So food safety regulation and requirements internationally are very, very significant.
Yeah, sounds like it's a multi-year strategic plan, starting with transitioning to federal inspection and then slowly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's strategically what we are going through is, first of all, we need to make sure that we perfect our internal processes, right, when it comes to food safety within Ontario and Canada, right? And then, start looking at the next level.
Yeah. Well, it's exciting. So has access to those new markets changed the amount of Ontario lamb you're looking to purchase, or the way that you source animals? Are there shifts in weight or type of lambs that you need now?
Not necessarily, to be honest. Like when I talk about Ontario or Canada, I think in terms of numbers, obviously it will be more, because I said that the market now is bigger than what we used to have. Right, and the capability that we have in the federal plant is more than what we had in the provincial plant. So then, from a number perspective, obviously we are looking to more numbers. That's number now. And now in terms of the sizes, in terms of the quality, we always look for Ontario corn-fed. That's our focus: high quality, consistent quality. So I don't think there is a difference between what our requirements were provincially versus federally. The numbers will increase over time.
So I think, you touched on it a bit here, Yaser, but from your perspective, what does a reliable supply of Ontario lamb look like? And then how important is consistency for processors serving those larger markets?
Yeah. So I mean, like we have always wanted, first of all, access to the numbers that we wanted, right? And our strategy has been always since day one that we deal direct with the farmers, right? So we don't buy from the auctions, very rarely, we had to go to auctions and find the number of lambs that we wanted. But still, it's the same attributes, if you will, we are looking for, right? We need our value proposition in the market is we are marketing Ontario corn-fed lamb, right? Which basically it's an excellent quality and an excellent taste. That's one thing. The other thing is the consistency, and dealing with direct with farmers, the enabler here is the consistency. Because now when you deal with high-end customers, especially the food service or the retail, from a customer experience perspective, they want to experience the same quality, the same taste, the same size, which is very important. So going back, dealing with farmers, that's where the value added is. The challenge here, I think for us, is there is not one farmer in Ontario, to my knowledge, that would have the capacity to have. I mean, like, for example, we are talking for ourselves, right? We are just starting, and like the numbers, we want to do around 150 to 100 lambs a week, sorry. Okay, to start with, right? So that is almost 10 to 12,000 lambs a year. I'm not aware of a farmer who has that number.
Not in Ontario, nope.
Not in Ontario, right? So that's a challenge. I know Ontario has a challenge with like the demand on lambs continue to increase as population increases, right? And different background ethnic groups increases in Ontario or in Canada in general. We don't have enough lamb. We don't have enough lambs. I recognize that. However, what we are hoping to happen is a group of farmers, to get together through obviously Ontario sheep farmers, is to get together and have a unified feeding program. Obviously, when we talk about consistency and sizing and all that stuff, I believe it goes back to the farm, the operation, the practices on the farm, right? Going through the same feeding programs, the same same processes followed, right? Like on the beef side of things, for example, there is a certification from Ontario Corn-Fed program, right? Because they have a specific program for feeding beef corn, right? And how they are being raised and for how many days and what have you. I'm not very familiar in details about this one. But now on Ontario lambs, I'm not aware that there is something similar.
No, not today.
Right. And yeah, I like Erin, like we have been in different meetings and discussions about that. And I think there is some initiatives to do so. But that is an enabler. When I look at Ontario lamb and I compare it to Australian or New Zealand lambs, right? The New Zealand lambs and the Australian lambs are the competitive advantage of them is they are always the same,
Right.
They already established. It's like Australia and New Zealand are the lamb countries in the world, right? So they already established with this ahead of us in many years, right? But I believe we have opportunity here,
Yep.
And I believe, like last night I was looking, at some ads, in BC, for example, they are selling Australian lamb of rack for $55 a kilo.
That's wild.
Right?
Yep.
I think we can compete.
Absolutely.
I think we can compete. But in order for us to compete, we need to have consistent supply and consistent sizes and qualities.
Right.
No?
Yeah. Fulfill 50% of market demand by 2040, I think is the way. That's our new goal as an organization, is basically to double production over the next 15 years. So I think we're lockstep, Yaser.
Yeah, Yaser, you're not even a paid actor here. You just you said everything we needed you to say.
Yeah, I think there's a mutual benefit for sure.
Yeah, I mean, even the conversation about talk about Ontario lamb versus Canadian lamb, right? I know for a fact. I met some customers in the Middle East. I know for a fact some Canadian lambs being exported to the Middle East from Quebec.
Wow.
So I know
Good
that.
on them.
I think I read some statistics somewhere. I think a value of $1 to $3 million a year
Wow.
sales internationally to the Middle East. That was surprisingly shocking to me because we first of all, everybody outside when I go on to an international trips, everybody recognize the quality of Canadian meat. There is a huge appreciation and recognition. But actually, when you see the prices of Australian and New Zealand lamb prices in the Middle East, we cannot compete. 100% we cannot compete, right? But there is a demand for high quality. There is a demand for higher quality.
Yep. It's definitely our niche opportunity, I think.
Yeah, I think like when I think about the lambs, let's try to focus locally, right? We are struggling locally, right?
Yep.
Even within Ontario, I mean, population of Ontario is, I think what they say is over 60% of the population of Canada.
Yes. The majority of lamb is eaten here. So, yeah. So if producers are considering selling direct, what are the benefits of building that kind of relationship to the producer?
A very good question. I mean, there are so many mutual benefits here. When I look at this one, we have to have some sort of partnership, right? And I mean, what I mean by partnership, the vision is to market Ontario lamb, right? And telling the story, right? People and COVID as bad as it was, it also brought up to the attention of everybody is we need to secure and sustain local food supply chain. And I believe we have the story to be told. People are looking for local. They wanna buy local. They wanna make sure that the supply chain does not get disrupted as it got disrupted during COVID. Right? They know they want quality. They want consistency. They want sustainability. That's what we are hearing and have been hearing from the customer over the years. Right? So the benefit is mutual, right? When I look at ourselves as a processor, right? We are in the middle, right? We are the middle group here between the farmers and the market, right? We are the enabler for the farmers. We are the enabler to market their lambs in the marketplace. Right? And we have the connection with the customers and we know what the customers want, right? So I guess it's a partnership in a sense to come together and build up a strategic marketing plan that we can collectively tell the story. And that story will sell to the consumer in the marketplace. I think that's where the benefit is. Right? When we go and sell to a retailer and they put them on their shelf as Ontario lamb, we can tell the story that this lamb is coming from this farm.
Yeah.
This is the qualities and attributes of local. So we have the story, but until now, we are not able to tell the story.
Yeah.
Right. And it's so true as a customer, sometimes you get those blinders on and you forget what's important. And so when you've got that information being presented, then you start to realize, oh, these are questions I haven't bothered to ask. And then it becomes a bit of a no-brainer to choose Ontario, especially nowadays. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Many producers are familiar with selling through a sale barn where payment processes are well established. For someone considering selling directly to a processor for the first time, what would you want them to know about how your business builds trust and confidence with producers?
Yeah, that's obviously a very important question. Over the years, as I said, we developed a relationship with farmers, and buying them directly from them. So, from a business perspective, we would like to reach, I'm talking now from a partnership perspective. I know the farmers, are looking for, selling to sales barns, right? They get their money, I think, within a week. If I'm not wrong, I think they get their payment within a week, maybe, and they get charged commission and what have you, and all that stuff. But from a partnership perspective, if we are able to collectively come together and create that strategic partnership and agree strategically on what we are trying to achieve as partners in the marketplace, I think that enable us to talk about payment terms, and all that stuff. From ourselves, we have built a relationship and the trust over the years, and we paid, back to the farmers based on agreed payment terms. So I think that conversation will be part of talking about the big picture, right? And agree on payment terms that are agreeable to both parties.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So, Yaser, looking ahead, what opportunities do you see for Ontario lamb if processing capacity moves to more federal inspection?
Yeah, I mean, we can work together to put our lamb racks in Costco.
Wow.
Right? Why? Like when I ask myself, why would Costco put Australian lamb rack on their shelves for $50 a kilo? Because I think two reasons in my mind. One is the sustainability and availability of Ontario lamb, or Canadian lamb for that matter, and then the cost, the price. Mm-hmm. Right? When I look at the lamb rack, Australian lamb rack, $55 a kilo, like that's $25 a pound. I think we can compete, right? So I guess if we talk about what the opportunities are, I think there are opportunities. There are opportunities, but I think those opportunities require readiness.
Right.
Right. Like availability, numbers, consistency of supply, consistency of the quality, consistency of the sizing. All these attributes have to work together to give you that competitive advantage that you can talk to retailers or food safety. And I've been talking to customers, in the food safety industry, in the food service industry, and the retailer, and there is interest. There is interest.
Yeah. Well, so it's exciting.
Are we ready? I'm not sure if we are ready. That's the question.
I was just going to say it's exciting because you're there, you're building it, you're getting ready to go, and so I can feel that excitement to start launching it. So I hope. I'm sure producers listening will start to feel that way as well. And it sounds like it's just about more conversations, really, and starting to open up that dialogue.
I think, like Erin through Ontario Sheep, and the group and Ontario Sheep, I think they have the potential as leaders in the industry, right? To have that conversation from the big picture perspective, from a strategic perspective.
Definitely.
Right? Bring people together. And, we had, groups coming and visiting us, and we talk about it and all that stuff. The challenge The challenge is consistency, availability, same product. That's a big challenge.
Yeah, yeah. And if Ontario producers were able to increase lamb supply over the next 5 to 10, 15 years, what opportunities do you think exist today that the industry isn't yet capable to fully capture?
I'm telling you, we have big demand. Demand continues to grow. And I believe the last statistics I hear, I think maybe 15 years ago, we were talking about we have only 40% of the demand in Ontario or in Canada, maybe. I think the number now went down to 30%.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Right? The population have increased, but the number of lambs have not increased proportionally enough to close that gap.
Mm-hmm.
So the opportunity is huge. In my mind, it's huge.
Yeah.
But that opportunities require attributes to be answered, right? In order to make it worthwhile.
Yeah. So if you could leave our listeners, our Ontario sheep farmers, with a message about the future opportunity in processing and in marketing, what would you like them to take away?
I think we can compete with Australia and New Zealand.
Wow.
I believe in that. I believe in that. The reason I'm saying that is, over the years, on average, we do around 200 lambs. I haven't heard anything bad about Ontario lambs.
That's great.
Everybody loves Ontario lambs. I mean, it tastes differently, better quality than Australian and the New Zealand. So if I have a message, I believe we have an opportunity. It's just we need to get together and strategically build a strategic marketing plan.
Yep.
Tell the story.
That's amazing. Thanks, Yaser.
You are welcome.
Yeah, fantastic responses.
Yep. I love these types of podcasts. They're so optimistic and exciting for the future of our industry. So appreciate you coming on the podcast today, Yaser.
Thank you so much, Erin. Thank you so much, Walker.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
And thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode of Flock Talk, please subscribe to your podcast app to receive alerts to our future episodes. And please share our podcast with your friends.
And for more information on Ontario Sheep Farmers content, follow us on social media under the handle @Ontario Sheep Farmers. And please visit our very resourceful website, ontariosheep.org, for more resources.